not, please let me know in the chat. But Nathan, you did confirm you could hear me. So I'm guessing everything's good to go now. I'm not going to play the video. It feels like that's where the issue starts every time. But the first example we see is Sarah was terrified of spiders. Whenever she saw one, she wanted to scream. The main point we're trying to get across here is that Sarah is scared of spiders. What we're seeing here later on is an actual interaction with Sarah and a spider. As the spider crawled down from the ceiling, Sarah pressed her back against the far wall. Even though it was across the room, her skin scuttled as if its legs were scrambling all over her. She breathed so quickly, she felt like she wasn't breathing at all. On the wall itself, or on the wall, its shadow was 10 times larger than the arachnid itself, its legs looking sharp and demonic. So there's different parts to consider over here. The best is right around the middle when we see Sarah's reaction, right? We're showing through Sarah's actions that she's indeed scared of spiders. We don't need to ever explicitly read Sarah is terrified of spiders, but rather just based off her reaction to seeing the spider crawling down from the ceiling, we could just see based off her reaction that she is indeed terrified of spiders. So first, what we see is just descriptions of her actions. And even the descriptions are well detailed. Her skin scuttled as if its legs were scrambling all over her. That forces, again, for you to pause and kind of create an image in your head. It almost feels like there's a spider that's, for example, if you are scared of insects and you do see an insect close up, it almost feels as if the insect is already crawling on your skin, even though it's not. And that's almost the kind of sensation that this is creating for you. Okay, and over here, when we see the description of she breathed so quickly, she felt like she wasn't breathing at all, or even just the fear of the skin scuttled as if her legs were scrambling all over her, we're able to get the idea that she is indeed scared of spiders. And then the last part, what we're able to see is imagery being created with the description of the arachnid. Its legs looking sharp and demonic. Again, think about descriptions that actually make someone pause and think about it. Something that's unique. Of course, if we're using anything that's overtold, it won't be as effective. But what we're seeing here, as I was saying earlier, I don't know how much of it was caught on. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, but I don't know how much of it was caught on, but as I was saying earlier, when it comes to writing, you can think of it the difference as a movie versus a book. In a book, a really great book, an image is painted for you in your head only because of the description, because the writer is able to show rather than tell. But in a lot of people's head as they write, they often think they're almost writing a movie itself, where they envision the reader is going to be thinking exactly what they're writing about, without them filling in the necessary details for the reader to get that vision. So what you as the writer has to remember is how can you use the tools you have available to you, whether that be literary devices, uh, irony, imagery, and themes, motifs, all of these different tools that you have available to you. How can you use them to show rather than tell? So we're going to take a look at 6 different ways. The first one is choose the most effective details. I do want to just try playing this one time, and then if it does lag, please just let me know.
Show that a character was kind of outdoorsy instead of just saying she was outdoorsy. Maybe there's a scene where we walk into her garage and we see all of the outdoorsy stuff that she has. Maybe she has some skis, kayak, and we see her hiking boot. Maybe
Okay,
her
if there's any
father's
lagging, can you please let me know
being
in
up
the chat by typing
or
in
up
one?
the mountain. That's much stronger than just being told that she was outdoorsy because we're convinced and we actually see what it means for her. And along with that,
Only
that
type
leads to
1
number
if there
two,
is any lag.
create the setting. If you want to show a setting that is spooky and eerie, in order to convey that tone instead of saying it's spooky and eerie, you might describe the fog and the cobwebs and the crows shrieking in the distance and lots of really weird, eerie, creepy things. And you never need to say it was eerie. And you can also use this to show a character's impressions of a place, which is also something you want to show rather than tell when possible. If a character grew up in a small town and they've just arrived in a big city for the first time and they feel really claustrophobic and nervous, you might describe, the mass of people feeling like it's crushing them. Point number 3 is use your dialogue. Dialogue is a way that you can show a character's traits rather than telling through their interactions with other characters.
Okay, yeah. If it's just a small length, let's just try to get through it. I think there's only about 4
Showing the
minutes.
state of a character's
So I just
relationship.
want to
Let's
really
think
just
of a character who's
have her
introduced
explain
and we're
certain
doing
points because there is
someone might
intense
ask them
lengths.
for a super small, tiny, easy to do favor, and they might reply in a way that's completely unreasonable and they throw a fit and they make it all about them or something like that. That's again stronger than having a line in the narrative that just says that this character is arrogant and rude and unreasonable. Or let's say you have one character who's really intimidated by another character within their relationship. Instead of just stating that, we could show their interactions where this character who's really fearful is nervous and they don't say much, and when they do speak, they're just trying to say exactly what they think this other character will want to hear. Number 4, show us with the theme. So if you do want to learn more on theme, we have an entire video on theme. But just to quickly touch on this in the context of show don't tell for this video. Through the language and the smaller details that you choose, you can show the theme and reinforce the theme in a really subtle way that readers might not necessarily consciously pick up on when they're reading, but it just kind of creates that overall thread throughout your entire book. So for example, this is a passage from Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel that illustrates this. She had never entirely let go of the notion that if she reached far enough with her thoughts, she might find someone waiting. That if two people were to cast their thoughts outward at the same moment, they might somehow meet in the middle. This passage is illustrating theme of loneliness and the craving for human connection that's really prevalent throughout the entire book. But it's doing this through showing. So if the author had done this through telling, it might have just read as simply as Kirsten wished she wasn't so lonely, all she wanted was a friend. That's quite overt, it's quite obvious, it's telling us exactly what her thoughts are. But here it was shown in a way that's a lot more interesting to read. Number 5, be careful with your figurative language. So we do have an entire video on descriptions as well as one on purple prose if you're struggling to strike that balance. But to touch on it here, because oftentimes showing does lead to using more rich and detailed language, which is great, but you want to make sure that you don't lose hold of that it doesn't get too far and it doesn't get too tangled or too dense. You know, you want to choose rich details and you choose your details wisely, but don't let it get too convoluted. Sometimes when people are too obsessed with showing, they try to show things that are already shown. So, for example, instead of saying he got into the car, people kind of describe what a car is instead of just saying that it's a car. He got into the car. That doesn't need to be shown in a more elaborate way. And a lot of people can fall into the trap where they take it to the next level where they don't even want to use nouns and they want to show an object instead of telling us that the object just exists. Don't convolute things too much. There's nothing wrong with literary devices. I really love literary devices myself, but you just don't want them to get in the way of the clarity and the ease of reading. And number 6, don't label emotion. If you're not sure if you're showing or telling, look for labeled emotions. So look for actual emotion words like happy, angry, sad. If you see the sentence, he was sad, then that would be an example of telling because you've actually used the emotion. This is kind of an indicator that you're probably telling rather than describing the emotion. And sometimes you end up kind of doing both. People will say things like his sadness was like this, and they kind of describe sadness, but still use the emotion word. So you really want to avoid those emotion words and just try to ask yourself what that emotion feels like and what it looks like for the character rather than using the emotion. Now, finally, let's talk about when to tell because this is also important. You're not going to be able to write an entire novel with 0 telling.
Okay, so we're not going to get into that part, but the 6 points that she went over is really important. Again, just to summarize and recap, choose the most effective details. So don't get distracted. Focus on the most important details that you're trying to present. Create a rich setting. If you have just a boring, bland room, there's only so much you could say about it. Use dialogue to reveal character. Again, what people say, how they talk to different people, all of that can let you know about a person's character and how they act and how they are as a person. Use showing to be subtle with theme. So the theme that you're trying to present in the story, use showing to subtly kind of embrace, like, yeah, wove it in almost like how you can actually have the theme be parts of your story without directly being the main part of it. So be subtle. Use figurative language carefully. Again, literary devices is primarily what she's referring to. You don't want to use too many to the point where it seems like it's almost a Dr. Seuss book, right? You want it to have a natural flow to it. And then don't label emotions. Okay, so let's get back into the writing activity. I just want to introduce. Okay, the prompt was already introduced, but I just want to go over it one more time. Amidst the rubble of a war-torn city, A child wanders the desolate streets, searching for a glimmer of hope. In your story, focus on showing rather than telling the child's emotions, thoughts, and the challenges they face. Here are some guidelines on how to accomplish this. Use vivid descriptions and sensory details. Instead of explicitly stating the child's emotions, describe the sights, sounds, smells, and textures they encounter. Show how their senses react to the environment around them, reflecting their inner state. For example, you could describe the crisp scent of smoke in the air, the distant echoes of explosions, or the rough, jagged edges of the ruined buildings that mirror the child's feelings of turmoil and danger. Showcase the child's actions and body language. Instead of relying on the internal monologues or direct statements about their thoughts, reveal their emotion through their physical actions and gestures. Show how they react to the devastation around them. Are they tense and alert, constantly scanning their surroundings? Do they move cautiously, their steps measured as they navigate through treacherous terrain? Do they reach out to touch objects, seeking comfort or reassurance? These actions can convey their resilience, fear, or determination without explicitly stating it. So, I want everyone to highlight the child's interaction with others. Show how the child's behavior and interactions with other characters reveal their emotions and strengths. Do they offer a smile to a fellow survivor, providing a momentary respite from despair? Do they share their meager food rations with someone in need, demonstrating their empathy and compassion? These actions can convey the child's inner qualities and the impact they have on those around them. Utilize symbolism and metaphor. Incorporate symbolic elements and metaphors to represent the child's emotional journey. For example, you could describe a delicate flower pushing through the crack in the concrete, symbolizing the child's resilience and hope in the face of adversity. Metaphorical descriptions can add depth and allow readers to interpret the child's experiences in a more profound and personal way. So, what we see over here is instructions to a full fledged short story. This is not a writing activity where we just have to incorporate some words, but rather this is a writing activity where we're going to spend majority of the time working on it to finish and write a complete short story. And then based off that, we are going to go into feedback in full extent. We're going to spend some time going through everyone's short stories, taking time sharing it, as well as taking time breaking it down and looking at how we can improve our writing. The reason being is often we focus on nonfiction writing, persuasive writing, argumentative writing, whatever it might be, and we have a multitude of different activities, but we never dedicate ourselves specifically to creative writing, or we haven't in a while. And I don't want to start a whole short story major activity. I would rather just dedicate one class to creative writing and have one short story written during then and give valid feedback at the end of class. But having it dedicated through multiple weeks, like I used to do in my older classes, just never seems to work out. So rather, we'll have this focus right now. And normally, I do let everyone choose their own prompts, but in this case, I do want you to stick to the given prompt over here. That way, we don't spend too much time brainstorming. I just want you to focus on writing. Right now, the time is 7:40. As I mentioned, we were supposed to end off class at 8:45. Yeah, instead of 8:30, we're going to end it off at 8:45. That's 15 minutes, and that should make up for the lost time. And right now, we're going to work on this activity. I'm saying about 21 minutes should be fair until 8 o'clock. And then we can spend the remainder of the time taking it up. And then I do have another shorter writing activity that we can work on later. So before we get started, does anyone have any questions about what they're working on or any questions about writing the short story at all? Okay. I'll also be checking in halfway through the activity, again, just to make sure everything is going well. At any point, if anyone does have any questions, feel free to ask me. Even if you're stuck on any portion of your story, excuse me, at any point, just feel free to ask me. Okay, I just wanted to check in to see if anyone had any questions. All right, just a reminder that in 9 minutes, we'll be taking up this activity just around 8 o'clock. And again, if anyone has any questions at any point, feel free to ask me. And I also want everyone to please let me know in the chat if you are going to be able to complete your whole story. If there's a need for an extra 5 minutes, that's the maximum I'm willing to give. Again, the main reason is because I want a complete short story. We do have smaller activities after, but I want this to be the primary focus for today's class. And we will, again, as I mentioned, spend a lot of time going through breaking down each story and then going into feedback. So since we are going to spend a lot of time on that, I do expect a complete short story. So I have the ability to give you feedback on how you construct a story as well. And if you are not able to finish it, please just let me know at the end of 8 o'clock and I will give that extra 5 minutes. But otherwise, if you are able to finish it, just start sending in your responses. Okay, the time is 8 o'clock. Everyone, can you please go ahead and send in your responses? Okay, I'm just gonna give a window up until 8:05 to submit the responses. As I see them get pasted on the slide, or as I see them get sent to the chat, they'll be taken up as soon as they receive them. But if you are done right now, please send it in. I just noticed no responses were sent in the minute that passed by. So you have about 4 minutes to make refining touches. If you didn't get to completely finish it, don't be too concerned. We'll try and go over everything together, but do your best if you have to use the next 4 minutes to finish the remainder of your story. But after 8:05, there's no extended time. 8:05 is the last time, or 8:05 is the maximum time we're going to work on this assignment till. Okay, the time is past 8:05. I still have not received any responses. Please make sure you are sending them into the chat or pasting them onto the slides. We do need to start moving on to the second activity. So Nathan, Austin, Liam, can you please go ahead and send in your responses? Okay, Nathan, can you go ahead and read your response?
A 10-year-old child was creeping out in a war-struck ruined city at night. He could hear the whispers of bombs behind. He could hear the faint screams of women even though there was no one. As he turned around the corner, he saw dim light. He tiptoed closer even though he felt the spiders coming closer. He tried to fight them off, but his fear overcame him. The faster he ran, the faster the spiders. Imaginary spiders vanished out of nowhere. As he crawled out, he walked calmly back home. Then he slept with great fear. The next morning, it was the day that the people needed to rebuild and plant more seeds. The farmers worked all day. The child's family happily shared food with others, and they used when the crops were harvested, the villagers had a great feast to celebrate their teamwork. Then he, then they heard loud towards them from the enemy side.
Okay, great job with your response, Nathan. I just want to go over some points of improvement. Liam and Austin, please make sure you are sending in your responses as well. We only have a limited amount of time, so again, please make sure your responses are sent in. It's already 3 minutes past the final time. So Nathan, as I mentioned, for all of us, we are going to go into extreme details for the feedback. So starting off with here, clarify the fear in spiders. Are the spiders real, hallucinations, or a metaphor for the trauma? Because it does seem to be coming abruptly into this worst setting. Show his fear through physical reactions, trembling, sweating, rapid breathing, instead of just stating it. Look at the example that we're looking at in the previous video. They mentioned the legs scuttling away, the skin on the legs kind of scuttling away, talking about the fear, almost the sensation of the insect being close to them. And then there's also the breathing that is mentioned, rapid breathing or unable to catch a breath. Something similar to the lines of that. So what we see over there is obviously a way of showing that physical fear. I mean, showing that fear through physical reactions. Smooth transitions. The shift from the child's fearful night to the peaceful morning is too sudden. You can add a sentence about how he wakes up, still shaken or exhausted from nightmares. So that sudden, abrupt shift almost just makes it feel as if the story itself didn't have the opportunity to be completed. Stronger sensory details. Describe how the spiders feel. For example, legs crawling on his skin, a prickling sensation. In the shop, add details like dust swirling in the air, the scent of burnt wood, or the eerie silence after the bombing. Again, what we're seeing here is the five senses being evoked. Not all five of them, of course, but just in terms of sight and almost feeling, just with the dust swirling in the air, the scent of burnt wood, obviously smell, and then the eerie silence would be hearing. Show, don't tell. Instead of he slept with great fear, show how he struggles to close his eyes, flinches at distant booms, or grips his blanket tightly. Instead of the farmers worked all day, describe their worn hands, sweat dripping, or the rhythmic sounds of shovels hitting dirt. Okay, and Nathan, do you have any questions about the provided feedback? Nathan, I just wanted to check in to see if you had any questions about the provided feedback. Okay, if you do, please let me know. But Liam, can you go ahead and read your response?
Amidst the rubble, a small child wanders the desolate streets. He hears screams of souls and cries of the dead, but he would keep on walking with trembling legs. Soon he would find a burned down house with nothing left. He would start to go inside and he would frantically search for something, as tears rolled down his eyes. He would pull out a big piece of paper, which would be a burnt family picture. Both of his parents died during this war, and he would soon be going out for revenge. The child screams in pain, and he swears one day he would find and kill the people who burned his parents to death. He would soon join the military and start his training every day, and he would keep on going until he could not get up. Rage filled his mind every time he trained, remembering the people who killed his parents. Soon he would grow into a young man and would get sent on his first mission. He would be sent on a mission to get information about when the enemy would attack. However, this is no easy task, as he would need to head deep into the jungle. As he walks into the jungle, a eerie feeling looms over him. It almost feels like something is watching him, as weird animal sounds are being heard. He would manage to get past the jungle with minimal injury, but the most dangerous part was sneaking into the enemy base. He would sneak in and luckily would not get caught as the security cameras scanned the area. He would continue to go and hack the lock and enter the secret room. He would easily find the file he needed and would quickly head back to base. Another few years had passed, and he had just been given a plane to drive and fight in. As of the dire situation their country they were in, they had no choice but to also put beginners in the front line. As he enters his plane, he still remembers the vivid image of his dead parents, and he would go to battle with a killing intent. He would engage in battle with an enemy warship, and due to the inexperience, he would soon get one of the engines shot down. So he had to make a final choice, and he would drive his plane straight into the battleship and killing himself in the process, and with only one thought in his mind: revenge.
Okay, great job with your response, Liam. I just want to go over some points of improvement, starting off with clarify and strengthen emotional depth. His grief and rage are powerful, but they need more showing rather than telling. Instead of just stating rage filled his mind, describe his clenched fists, sleepless nights, or burning exhaustion as he trains. Improve transitions and pacing. The story moves very quickly from childhood to military service to his final battle. So, especially for a short story, I mean, I understand the scope of what you were going for, which is great. But for a short story, it is better to focus on key moments and rather focus on building those moments out, fleshing them out. It's hard to show rather than tell if you're trying to give almost a summary or recap of someone's life. You have to focus on smaller moments. Enhance sensory details. Describe the sights, sounds, and physical sensations during key moments. For example, in the jungle, instead of just an eerie feeling, add descriptions of rustling leaves, shadows shifting, or the humid air making it hard to breathe. Increase tension in key moments. The jungle infiltration and the plane battle could be more suspenseful. Show his pulse racing as he avoids security, the sweat dripping as he hacks the lock, or the deafening sound of alarms if he's nearly caught. So try and focus maybe on a specific moment and through rather than directly and explicitly telling the audience information, you can actually show information through dialogue, through actions, kind of to even reveal background information about certain characters. So you can consider focusing on smaller moments to flesh out your story in better detail. And Liam, do you have any questions about the provided feedback?
No, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Okay. And Austin, can you go ahead and read your response?
The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the crumbling buildings of the city. A child, no more than 10, wandered through the desolate streets, their small figure dwarfed by the towering remnants of what was once a lively neighborhood. The air was thick with the acrid scent of smoke, each breath heavy with memories of laughter now lost. With every step, the child's shoes crunched on shattered glass, wide eyes starting at distant echoes of explosions that rumbled like thunder, sending shivers down their spine. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught their eye, a small flower pushing through a crack in the concrete, its vibrant petals dancing in the wind, igniting a spark of hope within the child. Then a faint cry broke the silence. The child hurried toward the sound and found another child sitting beneath a collapsed building, tears streaming down their cheeks. Without hesitation, the first child knelt beside them, offering a small smile and a piece of bread from their own ration. In that moment, they forged a connection, reminding each other that even in the rubble, kindness could thrive. Together they sat, sharing a fragile bond, and the child felt a renewed sense of determination, carrying the hope that life could still bloom in the darkest of places.
Okay, great job with your response, Austin. I just wanted to go over some points of improvement. All right, so starting off with the child's emotional response. Instead of just stating that the child feels hope or determination, show it more vividly. Does their breath hitch at the sight of the flower? Do they reach out to touch it, hesitant yet drawn to it? Think about moments where you could kind of slow this moment down almost. Both of these actions kind of just give us the idea of time being paused. And that's exactly the type of impact you're going for when they do see that flower. So try and think of that. Increase the tension and uncertainty. The setting is dangerous, but the child's journey feels relatively smooth. You can add small obstacles. Maybe they hesitate before approaching the cry, fearing a trap, or they flinch at a sudden distant gunshot. Again, this is just to kind of heighten the tension of the story based off the setting. It really is important that you do so. And as long as it is action based and has an active voice in terms of the word choice that you use, it would always be helping moving the story forward. Enhanced sensory details. The descriptions are strong, but more sensory layers could make them richer. For instance, describe how the bread feels in their hands, stale and crumbling or warm from being held close. What does the other child's voice sound like? Weak, choked with sobs. Expand on their connection. Their bond is touching but could be deepened. Maybe the second child is initially wary, pulling away from realizing the kindness being offered. A simple exchange of words or gestures could make the moment more powerful. Okay, and Austin, do you have any questions about the provided feedback?
Nope.
Okay, so let's move on to the next activity. We'll actually get started with the vocab first, and then we'll do the poetry interpretation after. So let me paste this in here. Okay, Liam, can you go ahead and read the first word?
Flippant, showing a lack of appropriate seriousness, a disrespectful disregard or decorum, often expressed by tactless clatter and jabber. His flippant actions and words earned a few laughs from his peers, but also got in several days of detention and a bad reputation.
Hey, and Nathan, can you go ahead and read the next word?
Flippant, showing a lack of appropriate
No,
seriousness.
we're on the second word right now.
Sorry. Flout, for to show contempt by openly breaking a law, rule, or tradition. Fools flout the rules in front of police and end up in jail. Leaving one's hat during the playing of the national anthem flouts the tradition and is considered highly disrespectful.
Austin, can you go ahead and read the third word?
Voiced verb to unload something undesirable, false, or inferior on the predence that is genuine, valuable, or desirable. To pawn off something undesirable. This project was foisted off on us because everyone believed it was impossible and because we were considered the worst department in the organization.
Okay, great. And just want to go over this word pretense. It's practically just to go off the notion or idea of knowing something before or thinking you know something before. Okay, and Liam, can you go ahead and read the last word?
Foray, noun, initial attempt at a new activity or occupation, a short trip or visit to a place. Particular, propose, a sudden military attack or raid. Elizabeth's foray into the world of publishing was not without some disheartening moments.
All right, so for this activity, I want you to write a sentence using each of the following words. Make sure to include enough context. You can also write it in the form of a paragraph oriented around the same topic. We'll work on this activity for 5 minutes. Before we get started, does anyone have any questions? Okay, right now the time is 8:22. We'll work on this until 8:27. Okay, the time is 8:27. We're already 1 minute past the take-up time. I still haven't received any responses. Can you please send your responses into the chat or paste them onto the slide? Okay, Austin, can you go ahead and read your response?
During a flippant foray into the world of fashion, Jianga decided to flout the traditional dress code by wearing mismatched socks and a colorful tutu. Her friends were initially taken aback, wondering if she was trying to force her quirky style onto them. However, as they walked through the bustling market, they couldn't help but admire her boldness and creativity, realizing that her carefree attitude was infectious. By the end of the day, they all embraced their own unique styles, inspired by Jiang's whimsical approach to self-expression.
Okay, great job with your response. I just want to go over one of the words. Foist implies forcing something unwanted, but Jenna isn't imposing her style on others. So in this context, foist would be incorrect. Okay, and Liam and Nathan, I still have not received both of your responses. Please send them in. We're 4 minutes past the take-up time. Or, I mean, we're 3 minutes past. Okay, now we're.
Oh, I already sent mine in.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I think. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just got it when you sent it as a direct message right now, but I don't see anything from before. I'm not sure if there was an error, but it did get this response. Thank you. All right, can you go ahead and read your response?
Johnny shows flippant behavior towards the teacher. Talking with someone else is considered flout. The job was foisted because everyone thought it was too hard. I had a foray at swimming.
Okay, good attempt, but 3 out of the 4 words were used incorrectly, starting out with flout. Flout means to openly disregard a rule, not to describe talking over someone. So when you write talking when someone else is talking is considered flout, that would not be the case because it would have to be an explicit rule that's being broken. This is more being disrespectful. Foisted, incorrect because foist means to force something unwanted on someone, but the sentence doesn't clearly show that. The job, which also would need a capital. Let's also highlight this over here as well. Because the job was foisted because everyone thought it was too hard. So yeah, we don't see exactly how this is being forced upon someone, but rather maybe a task provided to someone was foisted upon the colleagues at work because they didn't want to go through the difficulty of completing it. That might make a little bit more sense. And then foray, and this would be incorrect because it means an attempt or venture into something new. So in this case, it would have to be a foray into swimming for proper usage, rather than I had a foray at swimming. Okay, and Liam, do you have any questions about the provided feedback?
No, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, and Nathan, can you go ahead and read your response?
The flippant fool became a flout because he messed around the police in the foray, and the police voiced.
Okay, so let me just go over some points of improvement. 3 of the 4 words here are used incorrectly, starting off with flout. Flout is a verb, not a noun. It should be he flouted the police, if meaning to openly disregarded them. So here you wrote he became a flout. That wouldn't make any sense just because it isn't a noun. So I'm just going to highlight this in red. Okay, and then foray, oh, this should all be red, but foray is incorrect because it means an attempt or venture. But here its use is unclear. There just isn't enough context. He messed around the police in the foray, and the police foisted his foolishness, so it just would not make any sense in this context. And then foisted is incorrect because it means to impose something unwanted, but foisted his foolishness off their minds does not make any sense. So again, just it would be better to just go through this phrase. Think about how more clearly you can use the words. So rather than try to fit everything into one sentence, where often the words do come off misused, try and dedicate at least 2 to 3 sentences, and then it'll be much easier to actually use the words correctly. And Nathan, do you have any questions about the provided feedback? Okay, I'm guessing you're good to go. So we're going to go ahead and start reading this poem. This poem is titled Phenomenal Woman by Maya Angelou. And we're just going to, I guess, yeah, we'll take turns reading through the stanzas. I'll read the first one over here, and then we'll take turns reading each one. So each one of you will read one of these columns. Pretty woman, wonder where my secret lies. I'm not cute or built to suit a fashion model's size, but when I start to tell them, they think I'm telling lies. I say it's in the reach of my arms, the span of my hips, the stride of my step, the curl of my lips. I'm a woman, phenomenally phenomenal woman. That's me. Okay, Austin, can you go ahead and read the next stanza? So starting from I walk into a room.
I walk into a room just as cool as you please, and to a man, the fellows stand or fall down on their knees. Then they swarm around me, a hive of honeybees. I say, it's the fire in my eyes, and the flash of my teeth, the swing in my waist, and the joy in my feet. I'm a woman, phenomenal woman. That's me.
Okay, and Nathan, can you go ahead and read the third column starting from men themselves? Nathan, can you go ahead and read from men themselves have wondered right over here? Okay, Liam, can you go ahead and read men themselves have wondered starting right from over here?
Men themselves have wondered what they see in me. They try so much, but they can't touch my inner mystery. When I try to show them, they say they can't see. I say, it's in the arc of my back, the sunlight of my smile, the right of my breast, the grace of my style. I'm a woman phenomenally, phenomenal woman that is me.
Okay, and I'll just go ahead and read the last one. Now you understand just why my head's not bowed. I don't shout or jump about or have to talk real loud. When you see me passing, it ought to make you proud. I say it's in the click of my heels, the bend of my hair, the palm of my hand, the need for my care, because I'm a woman phenomenally phenomenal woman. That's me. All right, so I know this is 10 minutes. We'll work on this honestly until 8:42. We'll use the last 3 minutes to take it up as well as go over the writing assignment. I just want your interpretation on this poem. Use real life examples to support your answer and include an example of a literary device or poetic device. If you don't get the chance to get into the example of the literary device, that's fine, but make sure you do complete your interpretation for the poem. Before we get started, does anyone have any questions about this activity? Okay, so you have roughly about 5 minutes until 8:42. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask me. Again, prioritize the first part of the activity where you will write your interpretation and use real life examples to support your answer. Okay, the time is 8:42. Everyone can go ahead and send in their responses. I just want to go over the writing assignment and the homework. Okay, so for homework, review all materials and be ready for a quiz. If we have a chance, we might have a quiz at the start of class, but in general, review all materials. Review the feedback provided as well. Imply provided feedback to the writing activities. Review the vocabulary and complete the writing assignment below. This is a creative writing prompt titled The Last Message from Earth. Here you would write a well-structured short story about the humanity's final message to the universe before Earth becomes uninhabitable. Your story should explore the emotions, ethical considerations, and scientific challenges involved in crafting this message. Your short story should include an introduction where you set the scene by explaining the impending catastrophe that forces humanity to send a final message into space. Introduce your key characters. For development, describe the debates surrounding what should be included in the message. Should it be a scientific record, a warning, or a farewell? Explore different perspectives. For the climax, show the final decision being made and the emotional weight of transmitting the message. Resolution. Reflect on the impact of the decision. Does anyone receive the message? Does it offer hope, regret, or something? Themes and ethical considerations. Analyze the significance of preserving human knowledge, the morality of leaving a message for the unknown beings, and the emotions tied to Earth's end. Okay, so this one is a little bit a little bit more detailed, and it does kind of require you to follow set instructions, but that's exactly the challenge behind it. I do want you to give that a try, and it would also help keep your short story a little bit more focused for all of you, rather than have it be something where you kind of lose focus because you have so many ideas that you want to include. Here, you have to follow a specific set of guidelines. So please do give that activity a try. And I did receive, Liam and Austin, I did receive both of your responses. I'm going to take this up after class. We already did keep everyone 15 minutes extra. And again, I'm sorry for the technical issues we're experiencing. I'm not too sure. Again, my connection is supposed to be completely fixed. It's more the location of where exactly I'm set or where I'm living at certain different times. But I'll make sure from now on I only teach from my office directly. So therefore, the classes should be efficient without any type of delays. But otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and dismiss the class. I hope everyone has a great week ahead of themselves. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.